So this week we watched a video with Dr. Don Livingston introducing the history of society, government, and Thomas Hobbes. He explained how size and scale in population and that Hobbes thought that proper size should be large. Hobbes believed without government there would be anarchy because everyone would hold power. Hobbes believed if individuals gave up power to certain individuals, then there would be civilization and no anarchy. Dr. Livingston explains that the transfer of office goes to the government that is elected, which becomes the modern state. He uses example of the king and how when he dies his flesh body is dead, but the immortal body is the taxes and laws that are passed down to the subjects. Um, and that's why the subjects always say, "Long live the king," after the death. He uses traffic lights to describe the scale of political order, or Hobbesian state. The Institute says do what you want long as it's done in a civil way. However, he really doesn't describe what the civil way is. He leaves it to our imagination, which back then wasn't too much. What I got from the video is that Hobbes was a start to different societies or governments forming that would be made by the people. The McDonald book on our Constitution is also detailed history of the makings of the Constitution and the thoughts that went into the making of it. After some more detailed research into the topic of human scale and how it affects our government, it sums up to a body of people giving powers to the government. The bigger the scale is, the less people are being heard and less personal it becomes. An example of what I'm trying to say I found in The Theory of Human Scale, written by Kyoichi Tonomo. His observations was of Tokyo, Japan. And he explained that the greater the number of people, it becomes impersonal and the less people know about when and where vital decisions are being made. As Dr. Livingston and McDonald described, logic behind government and what it is meant to do or be, I think back to things we see today in our political field. Dr. Livingston and Hobbes thought it better to have bigger numbers, but I'm in agreement with Tanumo. The easiest way I can understand it or explain it is to use our voting system when it comes to presidential elections. The electoral party votes on the president and they are supposed to go by popular opinion, but that doesn't always happen. There are thousands of people whose voices aren't heard during the elections. We vote for those in office to vote for the president, but we don't actually vote for the president. I've lived in small towns, I've lived in major cities. The larger populations can get lost in translation because they are more in tune with themselves instead of their neighbors. As an example, when voting for sheriff or state's attorney, if you're in a small town, you're going to know who the sheriff is, and more than likely you're going to know some of the names that are in the courthouse. But in the city, you don't know the sheriff personally, or you might not go to the courthouse often. So you're not going to know the names, which means now when you're voting, you have to do research or just do a blind vote based off political party instead of actually what you know about the person. So that's where I'm understanding why, how it affects our government as far as size and scale goes. The smaller the size, the more personal it is. The larger it's impersonal, and therefore it becomes more flawed because now it's less people getting a say in what's going on with our laws and justices and freedoms.